Okay, hello, my name is Marguerite, and I'm joined with my co-host Courtney and Akhiyar for our podcast, Check All of Your Boxes, The Path to Leadership Growth and Success. Our guest today is Caitlin Judd, the Parkview Early Learning Center Director, and welcome. Thank you for coming. Could you possibly tell me a little bit about yourself and your leadership position?
Yeah, so I'm 23. I started at Parkview in April of 2022. I actually started as the admin assistant, and 2 months later, the owner came to me and asked if I wanted to be center director. No was not an option at the time. So I jumped in running, honestly, with a dumpster fire going on in front of me. Before that, I was a preschool teacher at another center. I was there for about 2 years before I decided I wanted to go into nursing. So I left there to go start at Sacred Heart ER as an ER tech. I did that for about 2 years and then realized if I was going to work with people that act like 5-year-olds, I might as well go back to 5-year-olds. So I left the ER and came I came to Parkview. I applied for Parkview, and that's where I started. I have my general AA degree and then a bachelor's in science, and then I'm working towards my double bachelor's in elementary education and special education right now.
Oh, got a lot going on.
Very busy.
That's really great. So thank you for joining us here today. We're going to talk a little bit today about our liberal studies and our integrated studies and how those relate to our leadership. So Courtney, if you want to take it away on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Caitlin, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. So students who major in liberal studies really focus on versatility in the subjects that they study. This helps to allow for a well-rounded education, which ultimately results in big picture perspectives with the ability to dive deep when needed and when chosen. The program broadens perspectives by teaching skills that enable us to consider different ideas, concepts, and perspectives to form an educated opinion or decision. So as a leader, can you describe why it's important to be able to consider all of these when making a decision? And then maybe if you can share an example of a situation that recently occurred where this was necessary.
Yeah, so I work with 2 different programs in our area. One is called ECAP, which is my preschool program, and another program is called Early Head Start, which serves infants to about 2.5. With me being a private center, that's one impact, like one decision that I have to consider. And then working with the 2 programs, those are 2 other decisions that I have to consider. And then there's the state laws that I have to consider. So really, when I have to sit down and make a decision, I have to think about my own individual team, my own teachers, my admin, what choices am I making that's going to affect the kids and my parents, my 2 programs, and the state. So any decision that I make cannot be made lightly. There is a lot of teamwork within my admin team. My assistant director and I work hand in hand. Honestly, we spend way too much time together. We're in each other's minds. And then my owner, Luke, he is also a huge impact on the decisions that we make. And every decision that I choose to make, I do have to go to him to make myself feel better about my decision, because there's so many hands in the pot, you can say. So when it comes down to taking in different perspectives, I honestly can't say like what perspective we're looking at, because when you come down to the decision that needs to be made, there's so many different perspectives, and each team has their own team that has different input. So one decision is actually handled by upwards of 35 to 40 people.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does that affect then your ability to execute on your ideas and your innovative solutions to kind of solve problems?
It really comes down to my team. If I'm going to be honest, I never make a decision by myself. If it's a quick acting decision, it comes down to safety. But if it is a bigger picture, I guess you could say, I really look towards my team. And when I say my team, I look towards my parents, my teachers, and my admin. I am not a director or a leader that makes decisions without the support of my team. And I think that as a leader, I think that's made me significant in the aspect of a lot of leaders say, I am director, hear me roar, and that's not how I am.
Yeah, that's great. My next question for you, if you don't mind, if you can please share with us a time where you had to work with a department outside of your own to solve a problem, an organizational problem. What was your approach to that, and what was the result?
Yeah, so we recently had a training come up, and one of my programs really wanted all of my teachers there. And for this particular program, that meant me closing and shutting down for 44 children, and sending upwards of 10 to 15 teachers to this training. When you step back and look at the children and the families that we serve, we're really more of a crisis center. So we serve the low income, high stress kind of families. And so us closing for one day, like for other people that might be like, oh, okay, I just have to find a sitter for the day. For our parents, it's crisis mode of, okay, well, I can't afford a sitter, so I have to take a day off of work. I don't have the gas, or like I'm not going to get the money to have the gas to feed my kids, to pay my bills. So when we make those decisions, it was a lot of disagreement with this particular program because it was a required training. And I had to sit down and explain my side and explain the impact that we were making on these 40 families, where they were just saying, okay, well, we need your teachers. Okay, perfect. But are you hearing what I'm saying? It actually took 2 months for me to finally put my foot down and be like, hey, here's what I'm willing to compromise, and then being willing to accept my compromise.
On top of that, if you don't mind, how does it affect your leadership when you have parents coming at you saying, I can't do this, you need to take my kid? Like, is there any times where you just want to melt and be like, I'm sorry, I'm doing what I can? Absolutely. What does it take for you to like stay headstrong and be like, I am so sorry, but this is not coming from me, this is a joint decision?
It definitely, I have to sit back and look at the bigger picture. If it comes down to 1 or 2 families, it still makes my heart hurt, but not as hard. There's definitely times where I do want to sit behind my desk and cry it out and just like make the world go away, because I hate disappointing our families and I hate putting our kids and our parents in unsafe situations. So when they come at me and they're like, hey, I really need you to be open this day, it really does hurt. And you have to go at a strength-based perspective of, okay, well, your teachers are getting this education, and I know it's inconvenient for this one day, but your teachers are going to be able to come back and help both you and your kiddos in this particular situation.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's really important that parents understand that it is not up to you. Your leadership branches out to 30 or 40 other people, like you said, and that it is for the betterment of their children. Because, you know, one of the things that I learned here was that parents always want the best for their kids no matter what. And I hope they understand that you and me and everybody else are doing the best they can.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Akhiyar or Marguerite, have you ever been in a situation where you had to do something similar with maybe either a team that wasn't your direct team, or a classmate that you didn't work with frequently?
Yeah, I can go first, Akhiyar, if that's okay. Recently, I did have to attend one of those trainings that she was talking about earlier. And with those trainings, it's very hard for our children to understand, like, oh, my teacher's not going to be here today, but I still need to, you know, behave. So I need to work with that outside network for the preschool teaching program and let them know, like, hey, I understand that you want me at this training, but I need to do the best that I can to make it back in a timely manner, because these children are very overstimulated when they don't have structure, and they do not understand that, oh, my teacher's gone for a day. Some of them, you know, take it as abandonment. Some of them take it as, I can do whatever I want all day. So it's really working with the adults to make sure that the kids have that structure and have that, you know, feeling of love and care that they need, that sometimes they don't get at home. So that's my example. Akhiyar, if you'd like to give one as well.
Yeah, so mine kind of going in like a different route. So I work as a pharmacy tech, and we have a lot of different pharmacists who kind of are temps and they work in and out. So our work environment is always changing and it's not very structured. So I kind of see where you're coming from. Like, obviously, I'm not a child, but our employees, like, we also kind of get that feeling of, we need structure, we need rules. So a lot of it is kind of having like a set schedule, regardless of who the temp the temp pharmacist is coming in. We have like this established mindset of whoever's coming in, we're still going to do what we need to do, because at the end of the day, the work that we have to do doesn't depend on who the pharmacist is. It depends on how we work as a unit. So that's kind of how we get through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing those examples with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, one of the things that you said, Caitlin, that kind of leads me into what I was researching about leadership styles is, you mentioned that it takes 30 to 40 people to make one decision and that you never make a decision on your own. So when I was researching leadership styles, there are three main styles, kind of introduced by the psychologist Kurt Lewin and his colleagues, and they were authoritative, democratic, and laissez-faire. Based on your description of what it's like working in your environment, it sounds like you definitely have more of a democratic leadership style, just because, it's very delegative. Everyone kind of works together. Would you agree with that? And what would you say are your influences for your leadership style and how you've kind of developed your own type of leadership?
Yeah, I would definitely agree that that's how our team works. Because like I said, just myself, like I manage 35 teachers, and Maggie can vouch for this, that I never make, even if it's a small decision, like this week is our spirit week, I sent out polls and I was like, I want your input because I want their participation and I want their excitement. And like, if they're not excited about it, I'm not excited about it. And our kids aren't excited about it. So it goes down to like dumb little things like that to bigger things of, okay, well, we have to try this. This is going to be a pain and I apologize, but it is required. So like, how can I best support you to make sure that you're getting this done, that we're getting this done, and we're meeting the state requirement? Something that we constantly, like that I constantly circle back to is, without my teachers, there is no Parkview. So at the end of the day, like, yes, I'm director and yes, I'm leader. And like, I'm here, my style is not, I'm here to lead you and you're going to do as I say. My style is, without you guys, like these children would not have a safe place to be for 10 hours a day. So what can I do to best support you to make sure that there is no burnout, to make sure that you're like, the children are not going crazy? Because like, if my teachers aren't here, then like Maggie said, our kids thrive on consistency and having that structure. And the moment that anything breaks, when she was gone at that training, I had 3 kids come up to me. Why wasn't Miss Maggie here today? Well, Miss Maggie had her own school. Well, is she coming back? Yep, she'll be here at this time. And like, those kids were on the clock. When's she coming back? 2 more hours. Is she here yet? Nope, 1 more hour. Is she coming? I just texted her. She'll be here in a little bit, I promise you. So it does take that consistency, not just with myself, but with the teachers and my leaders as well. Could you repeat the second question?
Yeah, definitely. So would you say that your mentors and the other people that you work with are your biggest influences on your leadership style, or did that kind of come from, how you were raised, or, just things that you developed within your personality and stuff like that? What would you say is the influence?
I would say that a small part of it came with how I was raised. My parents were always like, my house was the open door policy. If you needed a safe place, like my place was the place you could go. My parents never asked any questions. So I think that definitely built my personality and got me into this position, and got me into with these kids. Because honestly, if I was with another center, I don't think I would enjoy my job as much as I do. With my leadership, the owner, Luke, has definitely been my biggest cheerleader. He has been kind of my bumpers. He's like, hey, well, nope, you went too far on that. We need to come back. Or no, we can go a little bit more, but like, we're not quite there yet. He's definitely been that guide. I would say that my leadership style has changed in my 1.5 years, almost 2 years in this position. When I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. I was 21 when I started. So I was fresh, still in school, just came back from the hospital. So when I started, I was handed a dumpster fire and I was told to figure it out. There was no structure. Our requirements weren't getting done. I wouldn't say we were on the verge of getting shut down, but we were definitely getting frowned upon and we were getting written up for so much. And now, like, I have a fantastic relationship with all of our partners. My teachers are comfortable being like, hey, this isn't working, or I'm uncomfortable with this happened, what are our next steps? Where before it was, everyone was closed off. They didn't enjoy coming to work. And like now my teachers are like, hey, can I actually come in early? Because there's this project that I want to do with the kids, but I need an hour to get ready for it. Absolutely, please come in. I definitely shifted from the panic, oh, I have to fix everything, to more of a, we're going to go with the flow, fix things as they come. If it becomes urgent, we'll grab it and add it onto the pile. And if it's not urgent, we're going to throw it off.
Yeah. To add on to that, as an example, I definitely think that with what you're talking about, the way you were raised with your parents' open door policy, you have definitely brought that into the workplace, because even in their office, if we have a child that is completely overstimulated, completely overwhelmed, just completely in survival mode and acting out, their door is always open to bring that child in there to calm down. They know that the office is a safe space. They know that they're not going there to get in trouble. They're going there to calm down and come back to their selves, just so they have a clear mind when they go back to class. And I think that that's something, I didn't actually know that about the way that you were raised. And I think that that's really interesting, because you do adopt things from when you were, 15, 16 into your 20s. And I also think something interesting is that you said, when you started this job, you were 21 and still in school, but you are still in school now. So do you think, if you don't mind me asking a question, Akhiyar,
Yes, go ahead.
do you think that school has helped or probably hindered a little bit your organizational skills when it comes to your leadership?
Definitely both.
Okay.
When I started, like I said, I was handed a dumpster fire. There was no organization. Things were behind. Like I said, we weren't on the verge of getting shut down, but we were definitely like going into the negatives. Our partners were mad, parents were mad. And so when I took over, there was nothing. So I had to build an organization system from the ground up. It's been a lot of trial and error. With Gabby, like we're still trying. But with school, because I'm going into like elementary and special education, I've learned a lot. There's been a lot that I've brought to the table about certain views of children. And like I've learned how to do IEPs and IFSPs and all of that documentation skills that I didn't know I was going to need. I actually learned in school. So I could bring those to my workplace. My organization skills and work has definitely been affected by school. Like this week, I was just telling Gabby, like I've been snippy this week. I've been so good about not taking it out on anyone, but I've definitely been more short-tempered and more, okay, I love you, but please get out of my office. So like I know I've been tired this week, but I try to leave school at school, like at the house, and then as soon as I cross that barrier, like work is work. Nothing tries to get mixed.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, emotions always get heightened weeks, especially working with kids and parents that sometimes act like kids.
Exactly.
So that's definitely understandable. Akhiyar, did you have another question for Caitlin?
Not really. Actually, I did have a question for Courtney, if I can kind of pivot here. So what you mentioned about your parenting style really affected your leadership style. I actually read a really interesting article about that as well, about how parenting and leadership are really intertwined. So Courtney, you're a mother. Do you feel like your parenting style has affected your leadership, or vice versa? Has your leadership affected your parenting style?
Both, definitely. And actually, I agree wholeheartedly with Caitlin that I'm also kind of a new leader. I've been in my leadership role for a little over 3 years now, and I have evolved big time since I started. But I think being a mom has made me more of a patient leader. Something I really struggled with growing up in my early career was patience. So having kids and even requiring input from both of my kids to make a decision on where we're going or what TV show are we watching, that also helped to for me to be able to see different perspectives of all the different parties that I work with. So I think they definitely have helped me. But also being a leader, there's a lot of structure that you're required to build and then enforce. And so it's also brought structure into my home. And sometimes my husband says, you're all business. So it's definitely, it's influenced both ways for sure.
Yeah. I think that one of the important things about, having a good leadership style or having any leadership style at all is like the mental aspect that goes into it, the mentality that you have at that moment. And that's, one of the things that we learned in this liberal studies class is our worldviews and how we see the world. Basically, it's just our mental framework with how we view the world at different points in our life. So they actually listed out five worldviews that we usually go through at the early stages of our life, and then we evolve to at the end stages of our life. We can revert to and from at times of, conflict or need for survival. But those worldviews are conflict-based worldview, which is, just making sure that you are at conflict with everyone to achieve your goals, because it feels like you are beating someone or it feels like you are winning. There's a survival-based worldview, which is, seeking a higher power just to achieve security and a feeling of safeness. There's identity-based worldview, which is basically coming to yourself in your own identity, but doing that with the mind presence that you are, separating yourself from other people and separating yourself from like normal norms and their personalities. So kind of just getting a uniqueness to yourself and a different personality, but being aware of it. There's the peace-centered worldview, which basically focuses on, global peace and being at peace with yourself, being at peace with your family and the people around you, being at peace with your decisions. And then there's the unity-based worldview, which is a unity, in diversity in your workplace, in at your home life. If everything is unified, that's how you kind of stand in that worldview. So I guess the first question that I wanted to ask you about that would be, sorry, I'm trying to find it. Before you came into this role at Parkview, what do you think your worldview was when you were, at your last job or transitioning to this new job? Sorry, you can take it. I know that's a lot of information.
I would probably say, I don't know, because I was in a weird spot in my life. So when I left the hospital, we were actually moving into a camper. So that was a huge change, going from a house to a camper. Definitely a lot of downsizing. I became a stay-at-home work wife for about 3 months because I was focusing just on school for that time, and thankfully I had that to do. But I definitely let the stay-at-home work wife kind of take over my personality. And it almost destroyed my relationship and myself. So that's why I kind of got back into work and why I applied for Parkview. When I was at the hospital, I don't know, I would say I was kind of in this sense of survival and identity, because I just graduated from my CNA class. So I was learning how to use my skills. And there were people there who've been there for 20, 30 years. And so I was walking in, I was yeah, I know how to do this. And they would be no, that's actually not how you do it. That's just how you learn it in school, but you'll never actually do it that way. So it was terrifying. And then not only that, but they would literally hand you a person and be stab this person with a needle. Oh, wow. And you're yeah, if I mess this up, game over. That's it. So I would say when I was at the hospital, it was a little bit more of that survival mode, because I was trying to find myself. And then when I left, I would still say survival mode, because I didn't know where I was at. I knew school was my focus, but I had no personality of myself. I was home all the time in a camper with my dog.
Yeah, that sucks too, because especially when you're going back into you were going into the hospital thinking, oh, I know all of this. I know what I'm going to do, and I know that I'm ready. And then you're having all of these experienced people come at you saying, you don't know anything. It's kind of okay, I need to sink or swim. And I thought that I was doing well. So it kind of feels like when you're going in, it's you're regressing, because you were feeling pretty good. You were starting to feel unified, having your own identity, getting ready for this job, and then you revert back. So that actually leads into my next question. When you came into leadership at Parkview, you had to, open your perspective, because it's the biggest leadership role that you've probably ever had. With these parents and these children and these outsourced programs that you have to work with, do you ever feel yourself kind of just reverting back? Because if you feel right now there are some weeks where you're yeah, I've got this, I've got my identity, I feel at peace, I feel unified, things are going so well, everything's working. But with kids, that's never usually the case. That is never usually the case. So when do you think you're at your most unified in your leadership role? And then when do you think oh, I need to fix something because I'm reverting back?
I would say like I said, Gabby's my assistant director. When her and I are hand in hand, when it's just like we can look at each other and like know what's gonna happen, and we like calendars on point, we got everything done, everything's just like running smoothly. It's definitely a good feeling. But it's definitely like you hit like Thursday or Friday and you're like, okay, nothing's gone wrong this week. When's it gonna hit? And you're just like constantly worrying for the like waiting for that shoe to drop. And is that a fun feeling? Absolutely not. But it's an expected feeling and it's consistent.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that, but like it is. It's consistent that at least one thing is gonna go wrong that week.
Childcare is actually really interesting when it comes to worldviews, just because there's never really just one.
You never just sit.
There's a lot of jobs that are like that. I'm sure many jobs are like, it's kind of on the spectrum. It depends what day it is, because I know that, you know, some people that have a job, you know, working with adults, so they have a great team and they always know, you know, what they're doing every day and what the day is going to look like. That's where I would see, you know, more unity based or more peace center based. But at a job where you have to work with hundreds and hundreds of people, those including 3, 4, 5-year-olds that have no clue what they're doing in life.
2-year-olds. I work with 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds too. Like
yes,
a little lower.
It is just absolutely insane to even think you could be in one of those, because it's different every single day.
Yeah, no, there's definitely times where there's the sheer panic of, I don't know what this day's gonna look like. My day starts at 4 o'clock every morning. Even when I try to sleep in, 4 o'clock, my phone's already going off. Our center opens at 5:30. I have a fantastic opener that's consistent and like she can figure out any problem. But like I still panic and I never want her to go through anything by herself. So like I'm up and I'm ready and I'm texting her and I'm, okay, what do you need? What does the day look like? What are the call outs? Even whenever like the days that every single staff member shows up, whether they're like, they don't call out because they're sick, they don't have a day off, when my whole team is there, Gabby and I don't know what to do with our day because there's no chaos. The floor is running smoothly. There's extra hands in classrooms to help out with behaviors. Gabby and I are bored.
Yeah, which also doesn't happen very often.
It does not.
It does not, as much as I wish it did.
Yeah.
It does not happen very often. So you're constantly in that, oh, what do I need to do today? Panic phase. Like, I mean, you've told me about having dreams about this.
Yes.
These situations happening where you're just like waking up in a panic because you don't know what to do. I guess one other thing that I wanted to talk about. Oh, do you have something?
I just wanted to add in. I can really relate to your worldviews changing throughout the day. I think it, like you mentioned, I think most jobs you probably face so many different types of situations, so many different types of people every day, that you can be in this place of peace and confidence and an identity, and then the next minute you're scrambling and you have absolutely no idea and you're in that survival mode. So I experience that on a daily basis. And so there's this inherent like I feel like I'm in that unity space generally throughout every day, but then there's always those moments throughout the day where they completely change. So it's good to be really flexible and adaptable because of that.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with you, Courtney, being a mother, I feel like your worldviews are always going to be different, just kind of like it is for us at the childcare center. Like, you never know if your child is going to be having, you know, a good day or not, and you don't know what's going to happen, especially if you have multiple children. All of them could be in different worldviews at once, and it changes your worldview. You could have an amazing day at work and come home and your children are just absolutely off the wall, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going into survival mode now.
Yeah, we're here now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to ask you, Caitlin, it's more of like a personal leadership question. With all of the leadership that you have here at Parkview, you, with the exception of Luke and Gabby, your assistant, you hold the fort down every single day. You have to. So when you are like, you know, when you leave for the day and you clock out, even though that never really happens, but I guess more in social situations, you know, like with friends or your family, or, you know, like the people that you care about the most, do you feel like in those situations you need to be a leader, or do you kind of like let people do it for you because you're like, I don't want to be a leader anymore?
I'm the mom. I've been the mom of the group since I was in middle school. I grew up with 7 boys as my best friend.
Oh my goodness.
And it was always, where are you going? What are you doing? Is Caitlin going to be there? And if I was going to be there, the parents were like, okay, have fun. You're fine. If I was not going to be there, they most likely weren't going to do it. So, you know, I've always been a mom, and honestly, like, I think that's why when Luke was like, you're going to be center director, here you go. I was like, okay, what are we tackling first? Like, it took me a good hour to panic about it. Called my mom crying. I was like, I did not sign up for this job. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is a huge center. There's 100 children. There's 40 staff members. After I got over the panic, it was like, okay, hit the task list. This is what we're doing. And even at home, like, I'm sure you go home and do it too. I go home and I talk to my dog like she's a toddler. And I'm like, no, get that out of your mouth, please. And I, like, if my boyfriend's annoying me, I'm like, put a bubble in it, please. Like, it's constantly like, I take work home with me and I take it everywhere. I mean, just this weekend I went out with friends and they were like, hey, I'm gonna go do this. I was like, okay, I'll table sit. Give me all your bags. Give me your coats. I'll sit here. And I did. I sat there and I was like, okay, we're leaving at this time. We're going to this place. And then everyone's going home at this time. Text me when you get home. I just took it over because that's where I feel comfortable. I wouldn't say I have trust issues, but there's definitely some sensitivity in that area.
Yeah, I mean, it's as long as you feel comfortable being in the leadership role, like outside of your work life, I think that it's a great way to, you know, attain your personality. Like, if you try too hard not to be in the leadership role, you're like, no, you can take charge. You're just uncomfortable. And you're like, no, I want it like this, and I want it like this and this. So it's definitely a lot easier if you're comfortable with being in the leadership role. But I feel like Parkview has definitely helped a lot with that because, like you said, you were thrown into this and you swam and found your way out. And it's definitely, I feel like, would change somebody's personality a lot. But you do really well at it.
Appreciate it.
I have one more question if I can add on. Caitlin, so you mentioned earlier in the beginning when we were doing your introduction that you were in your first role at the center for a very short period before you were thrown into this role. So my question for you is, what would you attribute that surprise promotion to? Like, what about your work ethic, your personality, and your skills made you the right person for that role?
I would say I'm a very blunt person, and Maggie can disagree or agree with that. I walk in, I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to maintain a professional boundary when I say it, but like, if you're doing something dumb or wrong, I'm going to call you out on it. And when I came on in April, the director that was currently directing was there for 5 years. And frankly, she just got too comfortable in her position. She kind of quit following what needed to be done. There was no more growth. And I feel like in our field, you constantly have to have growth. Otherwise you will sink. Like, you have to be moving. The moment you stop, it's game over. So when I came on, there was a lot of cleanup to be done. There was a lot of like little tasks, like getting the schedulings done, getting classroom schedules written, getting paperwork done, making sure that our compliance was up to date, all of that little stuff. And I hit the ground running. Like, even when I started here, because she was so comfortable, she just kind of quit doing those things. So I just took it on, and I was running classroom to classroom, and it would literally, like, I'd walk in and be like, hi, I'm Caitlin, I'm the new admin assistant. I need this done by the end of the day. Cool, thank you. And I'd walk out of the classroom. To be frank, teachers did not like me in the beginning because then I'd circle back and be like, hey, did you get that done? No? Okay, well, nap time's in 20 minutes. Once all your kids are down, I need it done, and I'll come pick it up at 2 o'clock. So I definitely feel like that sparked the interest in Luke, the owner, of promoting me. And then I would say, like, I did not quit. In my first, I want to say it was like my second week, we had an incident where someone broke into our center. So I was like, yeah, I'll stay and like make sure all the locks get changed. I started at 7 o'clock that morning, and I was here until 1 o'clock the following morning with the guy to make sure all that was changed. And he called me. He's like, you're still there. I was like, yeah, I'm still here. He's like, girl, go home. I'll come take over. So I did. I went home and I got back up at 6 o'clock, and I was back at 7. So I think that kind of showed Luke that I was ready for the role. Did I know everything? No, I didn't even know ECAP and early head start were programs when I started. I had to learn everything about them. And like I said, I was a preschool teacher for 2 years before I worked in the hospital for 2 years. So I knew how to do children. I did not know how to run a center at all.
Yeah. So what I'm gathering is that you have initiative and tenacity. And I think that it really takes initiative and tenacity from anyone that is interested in being in any kind of leadership role. So
yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, I can 100% attest to to Caitlin's tenacity. I mean, it's just absolutely insane how much she is in this building. I think she's here more than she's at home. We live very close to each other, about 30 minutes away from the center, and she was here on a snow day last year. Like, it was just absolutely, like, you look at her, you barely see her through the day because she's just running back and forth, just everywhere, doing everything at once. But when you do, you're like, hi, it's nice to see you. And she's like, great, did you get this done? But it really shows this is the reason that our center is running. And whether people think that it is, too harsh or whatever, too blunt it is, it gets things done. Well, she is still keeping those professional boundaries, like she mentioned, and still being able to let go of that when needed. I mean, we have a group chat and we make jokes in the group chat all day. We are very, at home with each other. And I think that that's one of the things that, makes a great leader is being able to not let go of the leadership, but, dial it back a little bit when you want to have fun or you want to, be the one that's like, hey, let's do this. Like, we're all wearing black today just for fun, just for fun. So yeah, it's been an amazing thing to watch in my 6 months here. I don't think I've ever seen a leader as tenacious as Caitlin.
Nice.
So yeah, it has definitely been a treat for sure.
And I think that really says a lot about, like, I feel like most of your diligence and your tenacity can also kind of be credited towards your level of comfortability with leadership. If you're that comfortable being in those leadership positions, you're going to be able to know when to fall back, when to step up. And I think that that'll be hard for somebody to ignore. So I can definitely see that within the 20 minutes that we've been talking, that you're just very comfortable in that in that setting.
Yeah, that actually, what Akhiyar said kind of leads into some of our closing questions that we had for you. I feel like since talking to you, I already know the answer to this, and they probably do too. But if, there was an opportunity for you to have a job at Parkview that wasn't center director, that wasn't a leadership position, would you ever consider taking it?
Honestly, I'm full honesty. I thought about this today because today something happened. I had to go to Walmart. I used Walmart as an excuse so that I could sob in my car and then come back, put a smile on my face, dry my tears, and come back to work. Some days I'm like, yeah, I would go back in the classroom and I would go back to teaching because to me that's easier and it's not as exhausting. Would I be fully satisfied? No, I would not. And I think that's what it circles back to, because when I am done with my degree, I can go teach. I can leave Parkview, say sayonara, go teach 30 kids a day. But to me, like, now that I'm in this position, the only way I can go is up, because right now, like I said, we serve 150 families. I'm making a bigger impact where, like, if I go teach, it's maybe 30 kids, maybe for 9 months, maybe they'll circle back. We're like, right now, we have 12 and 13-year-olds that are coming back because their siblings are here, or like their older sister had a kid and now their niece or nephew's here, and they're like, oh yeah, I had Miss Tima. Oh, is Mr. Luke still here? Like, that's the impact that I want to make. And like, our kindergartners walk in and they're excited to tell us about our day. Like, we are still their safe place, and that's what I can never leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think, because you have mentioned wanting to teach one day once you get your degree, do you think that that will be as satisfying? And if not, what do you think you would work towards other than teaching with the degree that you're getting?
Honestly, I will probably stay where I'm at. There's already been talk with Luke about expanding Worldview, and my dream, as you know, the kids that we have are very, overstimulated and very high energy, and they don't get the attention that they deserve, the devotion and the development that they need. So my dream is actually to open up a kindergarten enrichment center and take it so that we can really focus on those smaller ratios and get our kindergartners what they need, because in Washington State, like, you need to be 5 by August 31st. So your birthday could be August 29th. You're 5, you're going to kindergarten. That child's not emotionally or developmentally ready to go to kindergarten. By age-wise, yes, they are, and that's where the state goes K-by. Nothing else do they get test for, and that's where, like, we're losing our kids, and they're running to the mall, and they're escaping their classrooms, and they're not getting the one-on-one that they need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So I guess my last question for you, unless they have questions afterwards, what do you think your best, and you can be as blunt about this as you want, what do you think your best advice for someone that wants to attain a leadership role would be?
Be prepared to be broken. because it will happen. I remember the first time I got told that I was doing something wrong, I immediately went into defense and I was like, no, I'm doing this right. And they were like, no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, we work with 100 different people, whether we want to admit it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so where one program was like, yeah, no, you're doing it fully correct. The other program was like, yeah, we don't do it like that at all. You are completely wrong. You can never do it like that again.
Mm-hmm.
So that hurt a lot. And
Yeah.
I was definitely like ready to walk away at that point and be flexible, because I mean, children or not, like, your day will not go the way that you planned. You can have your day blocked off perfectly, and I promise you, you're gonna miss a meeting, you're gonna show up 20 minutes late, you're gonna miss that interview, you're gonna make that interview sit out there for another 20 minutes, you're gonna have a child attack someone. Like, we had a kid climb a fire hydrant the other day. Was that planned? Absolutely not.
No, definitely not. And I feel like, Courtney, I don't exactly know what your role is in your job, but I know that you have a leadership role as a mother and with your children. And I feel like that the advice that Caitlin just gave is very true when it comes to motherhood as well. Like, be prepared to be knocked down, be prepared to be, dysregulated a lot, because you never know what's going to happen even with your own children. So, would you agree with what she's saying?
1000%. Absolutely. Obviously in motherhood, right? So you are always on your toes with motherhood, and you never know what's coming around the corner. But certainly in the leadership role I'm in, I'm the manager of global talent acquisition for a local health system and global clinical trials laboratory system here. And every single day I can have back-to-back meetings, and I may not be able to make one of those meetings because some critical scenario popped up that I now have to go put out fires, or there's an escalation that comes up where I have to then go and do an investigation and figure out what happened and how do we resolve the problem. So it is absolutely flexibility. It is absolutely being self-aware and being humble enough to accept when you're maybe wrong and maybe need to look at things differently, and being able to try something new. And if it doesn't work, say, hey, that didn't work. Let's go back to the drawing board and try something new. So I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Caitlin said.
I agree with what you said about that self-awareness. I think it's really important to remember that all four of us are still in school. We are all in our own leadership role of getting our degrees, whether we have professors above us or, our group mates. We have our own leadership roles, and we have marks that we have to hit. And that's something that we have to be mentally prepared for, with our worldviews. We have to be in a peace-centered worldview just to be here today. Everything has to line up perfectly. We have to be able to, walk here right. We have to make sure all the doors are unlocked. Like, everything that we have, there has to be steps to lead up to that. So I think that leadership is a very broad spectrum, definitely. And I think that it's interesting, with being a leader with school, being a leader with being a mom in your workplace. Like, it's all very similar, but very different at the same time.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Absolutely agree.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today. I'm very grateful that you agreed to come here. I know how busy you are, which we just talked about. Courtney or Akhiyar, was there anything else that you wanted to mention before we head out?
Nope, just wanted to say thank you again, Caitlin, for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Same. I don't have any other questions. Very impressed by you, and I wish you all the success in your career in school and whatever lies ahead in your path.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye.
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 Okay.